Another type of 4-point is this one. I like this one. This is the system. If you have a smartphone and it can do panoramic photography with it, if you analyze what those panoramic photographs are and draw lines over the pictures, you'll get this particular grid. It's a cylindrical grid that you can see the cylinder down below. And notice that I've said north, east, south, west, back to north. So on the flat grid, the left-hand side actually is the same point as the right-hand side. So one set of the 3 sets of lines are actually going back to running straight up and down. The other 2 sets of lines of the cube are curving to their points. This one is using the 360, and the right-hand side fits with the left-hand side. And the up and down lines are all straight up and down, and the others are picking out the curves that the grid helps you with. You're open to almost anything what you create, cubicle. If you think a cubicle space, this one is the same thing, but instead of looking around on a horizontal band, this one's working in reverse. So it's taking a wall, it's taking a ceiling, taking a wall and the floor. So it's moving through space this direction rather than this direction. And it depends on, is the floor and the ceiling more interesting than the walls around you? If they are, that's where you want to put your focus.
This is an example of what's called a continuous 4-point perspective. This is the end result that you're looking at. We're going to go through the process from the beginning to this point. It's different than a lot of the other perspectives because it's playing with curved line perspective. And it's also 360-degree picture. It goes all the way around you. Starts from the north, goes to the east, west, south, and all the way back around to the north again. So it's a very interesting way to capture a complete world around you without getting the top or the bottom quite. That's all that's missing. All right, here we go. Okay, so we've speeded this up, but you can see now this is the grid that I'm playing with. It's curved lines that swing from north to south and from east to west around you. There's 5 points that are showing here, but the outside points are the same point because it's like a cylinder. It would actually come back around to itself. What I'm doing at this point is drawing the 4 walls around you. We have 3 walls in front of us and then 2 half walls on the side. When I'm doing this, the lines that I'm measuring here is to make sure that the line that runs off on the right side actually fits with the one that runs off on the left side, on the top and the bottom. So if we do swing these around, that we actually connect with each other. And you'll see us doing that at the very end. The lines on this, you can see, are all curved lines except, and where I'm looking through the grid, looking at the up and down lines are actually straight, and then the north to south and the east to west lines start with a very straight line through the center and then a progression of more and more curved lines as it moves away from that center point. Sometimes I use a pencil. I'm using a pencil here. I would probably do this whole thing in pencil to start with if I weren't wanting it to show up for you. So once in a while I do switch to a pencil to get it organized so I make sure it comes out right. But I'm on each of these walls, I'm doing like windows and breaking in and into the wall and putting other rooms inside, and doors and windows and whatnot. Even the little depth lines follow the grid that I continually see when I look through this sheet of paper. It's a little hard to see the grid for you, but for me, I can see this grid as I'm drawing. So the grid is always there, kind of giving you the direction that the drawing should be going. It isn't anything that you have to follow the exact lines or anything. It just shows you the direction that lines would be aiming toward that point. It's like an infinity if you think of the grid as an infinity of lines going toward a point. But they're separated and dark enough to where you can really see them through the sheet of paper. You want to make sure when you do this that when you have the grids that you put a clear sheet of paper. This is just copy paper that's stuck together. Now I'm breaking into the floor so that you can see that there's how a hole in the floor would work too. Holes in the ceiling, it's happening, and it's just following the grid. And it does have to curve. If it doesn't curve like this, you'd never get a 360-degree picture. It has to have some system involved in it in order to capture complete scenes around you like this. I like adding people and plants and stuff to make sure that people are aware that this is a real world that people live in and not just an abstraction or a very cold environment of some kind. I'm using a little whiteout here in order to get rid of extra lines. When you draw, of course, I'm really not drawing this fast. This is speeded up about 5 times the speed of my actual drawing. I wish I could draw this fast. This would be very cool. So you can see even these little windows have the depth lines in them. Straight up and down for any lines that go up and down. They're actually parallel. And then they curve. The way I think about it, when a window fits on a plane, it has to share the same direction that the wall direction that the wall goes is the way the window or doors go. Here's a plant. I'm trying to get it so it gets down into the ground a little bit here. A little whiteout again just to clean up the transparency parts. And when you do this kind of a piece, you end up with 6 different planes within the cube. A typical cube has 3 sets of parallel lines in it. So anytime you're inside a cubicle room, you have 3 different sets of lines that you're dealing with. And those sets of lines go to every other point in this particular system for vanishing points. But these, when we start, we're going to be coming back with some color here pretty soon. And how I think about the color, a lot of times within my own real work, is having each of the planes their own color. And that helps you to read one plane moving out and shifting around and maybe going somewhere else, but it's all parallel planes that are the same colors, and you'll see that happen pretty soon. Also, I'm adding in the windows here a little space, mountains, and trying to get some variety of things in the background that you can see. It comes from one window and then shows up in the next window, and so you know it's a complete panoramic view of horizon around you too, which is outside the building, of course. This is a great system to draw if you were like an interior designer. You could show people what the whole scene looked like. Or if you're an architect, it's a good way to capture complete worlds around you. I do this on spheres a lot, but this is a nice way. I mean, if I had this kind of a drawing before I did the sphere, it would help me a lot. I'd have a pretty good clue. I wanted to give you a glance there of the grid just to make sure that you knew this was all coming out of that system. A curved line, 4-point continuous 4-point perspective. Now here's the red planes that are all parallel to each other. And you notice when I color, even when I color in, I follow the grid stroke, because I find that helps make that plane read more real if you actually run the strokes the same way that the grid is running. Very, very much works even when you're not drawing with grids. If you follow the contour of the object you're drawing, makes it pop out a lot better, I think. Now we're on another plane, the yellow plane here, and we're going to be picking up any plane that runs parallel to the first one that I shaded in. So all of these are parallel planes. Now we're into an orange plane. And that little tree in there helps kind of to just give a little more variety to it and makes it a little more relaxing. Little color also snaps makes it much more readable as to how it all works, how the different planes work if you have colors to go with it. Now this is an interesting, this is actually a cylindrical shape, but it also can work into Mobius bands. It can also, you could add the one end of this to the right, copy it off and put it on the left side and do that 20 times, and you could have a 40-foot drawing by 6 inches tall or so. So it does a lot of really interesting things because it is a panoramic, just like a panoramic photography, but you have a lot more control. Like I was saying, if this were a sphere, it would be, if you could imagine yourself inside a transparent sphere and you were to look around, up, down, and all the way around, this would be like a couple of lines that would run around on both sides of the horizon, up quite a bit and down toward the floor quite a bit. So you'd see a lot of the ceiling and a lot of the floor, but you wouldn't see everything right above you and you wouldn't see everything right below you. So it's short a little bit of view, but it gives you a lot all the way around you. So you can do a lot of different things with this. This is one of my favorite perspective systems. A lot of times I also like the floor and the ceiling. I'll usually leave them lighter colors just because light comes from up above, so usually the top planes are lighter. And then a lot of times I'll think of when I'm shading in these different planes, two opposite planes might have the same value. They may be a dark value, and then the other plane may be a gray value. So it would be like your reds and your greens. The blues and the violets maybe would be your darker plane, and then your yellows and yellow greens, red oranges, oranges might be the lighter plane, or just leaving it white. But sometimes I like to add a little stroke into that white plane just to give the sense of the space and how it's moving across in front of you. A lot of times you notice that I put my finger on the vanishing point when I was drawing the lines, because it helps me to know where the line should be swinging across to. It's really fun to take this on with an actual environment too. If you can sit in a real environment, and that's really exciting to look at to start with, and then see if you can capture it in a continuous 4-point. It's a wonderful way. See, now I'm doing a few strokes in this white floor, and I'm using the grid to help me know the direction that those lines should be stroked in. They're not dramatically dark lines, or you'd lose the lightness of those planes. So it just helps to kind of give you the feel of that space. So this is the final piece, and I want to show you how when you do wrap it up into a cylinder, what it looks like. It's really quite cool. You can have the cylinder either on the outside, or you can have the drawing on the cylinder on the inside. This is taping it so that it would be on the outside. Another thing you can do is copy this off with a color copier and stick 2 or 3 of them together and then turn it into a cylinder like this. So when you make one revolution, you actually are conceptually turning in a circle 3 times. You find when you put it together like this, or especially what I'm going to do now is turn it inside out, and if you could get your head inside of this, it'd be an incredible realistic world that you'd be in. You can see it just even there. So this would be great for like sets in theater in the round. If you wanted the audience to sit in the middle, have to, I guess, put them on chairs with turntables or something, so you could spin around and see the whole environment around you. This would be a very accurate set. It becomes much more real when you see it like this. This is probably the most natural way that it should be viewed, but I like it also flat. So this is a nice example of a 4-point perspective carried out with the grid you're seeing right there, and when you see it as a finished product, you get something like this.